Naimbag abigat, maayong buntag, maugmang aga, maliliw ni alal, subot sa intao, dulalo sa makitang. Good morning everyone, I'm Beverly Longid representing the Katribo, Kalipunan ng mga katutubong mamamayan ng Pilipinas or the National Alliance of Indigenous Peoples Organizations in the Philippines. I'm also the co-convener of the International Indigenous Peoples Movement for Self-Determination and Liberation or IPM-SDL. Today, we're discussing a topic critical to our collective future, reclaiming land and sovereignty in the global green transition. As we navigate this so-called transition towards renewable energy, we must ensure that it does not come at the expense of indigenous communities whose lands and rights are often sacrificed for the minerals needed to power this new world. This discussion is not just about data. It's about real people, real ecosystems, and real solutions. The green energy transition, driven by the urgent need to combat climate change, pushes the global demand for minerals like nickel, copper, and cobalt. These are essential for producing electric vehicles, solar panels, and wind turbines, technologies that promise a sustainable future. However, there's a major blind spot. Most of the world's mineral resources, including those needed for these technologies, are indigenous peoples' territories. From the Philippines to Chile to India to Africa, indigenous communities are being displaced, criminalized, and even killed as mining companies move in to extract these minerals. Let us ask ourselves, can we truly address climate change if it comes at the expense of the very people defending the Earth's most critical ecosystems? Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture. Indigenous lands make up 80% of the world's remaining biodiversity. Indigenous communities are at the forefront of protecting these areas, using their traditional knowledge and sustainable practices to preserve ecosystems vital for climate resilience. However, across the globe, half of the mining activities for the green energy transition occur on indigenous lands. These communities are not just facing environmental degradation, but are also being displaced, with our rights undermined by state-backed development projects. Take, for example, the Atacama Desert in Chile, where lithium is extracted for batteries. The Congo's cobalt mines are another example. In these cases, the fight for land sovereignty is inextricably linked to climate justice. Now let's focus in the Philippines, a microcosm of the global challenges we are facing. As one of the world's largest producers of nickel, the Philippines plays a crucial role in energy transition. But here's the problem. Mining, the extraction of these transition minerals, is prioritized over indigenous rights and environmental protection. The Philippine government, under both Duterte and Marcos, has fast-tracked mining operations, lifting the ban on open-pit mining and issuing mining concessions on critical lands, many of which are indigenous peoples' lands and territories. This has led to land grabs, deforestation, and widespread human rights violations. Communities like the Lumad in Mindanao and Palawan's Palauan are losing their ancestral lands to corporate interests, with militarization backing these projects. Despite these challenges, indigenous communities have been guardians of biodiversity for centuries. They have long used traditional ecological knowledge to sustain the environment, manage forests, and protect watersheds. And in the Philippines, communities like Takan-Kanaoy, Lumad, Aita, Agta, Dumagat have lived sustainably in the mountains and forests, serving as stewards of ecosystems but are now threatened by mining. These communities play a critical role in climate change mitigation, but they are increasingly being displaced by extractive industries. The irony is that while indigenous peoples are leading environmental protection efforts, they are being excluded from global conversations about climate solutions. Indigenous peoples' rights and traditional knowledge should be at the heart of sustainable development. Another grave concern is the increasing militarization and bombings of indigenous lands and territories, especially those targeted by mining companies. Military forces are often deployed to secure mining sites, and as a result, indigenous human rights defenders and advocates are subjected to violence, harassment, and militarization. This state backed militarization is not only affecting the safety of indigenous communities but also escalating human rights violations. In many cases, anti terror laws are being used to label land defenders as insurgents, making it easier for government to silence their opposition. For example, in Mindanao, many indigenous leaders are targeted for standing up to mining companies and their military backers. Now let's discuss free prior informed consent, which is supposed to be to ensure that indigenous communities have the right to decide, no, before any development project, especially mining, takes place on their lands. Unfortunately, the free prior informed consent or FPIC is often a broken promise. In practice, coercion and misinformation prevail. Communities are pressured to consent to projects. In some cases, the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, no, rather in many cases, the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples or NCIP, and in collusion with corporations, falsify consent or manipulate the process to secure approval. Reports indicate that this is happening right now in regions like Palawan and Caraga, where mining communities continue to operate despite violating indigenous rights. The FPIC process was meant to be a tool for justice and self-determination, but it's been used as a form of greenwashing for exploitative industries. The transition to renewable energy is often hailed as a necessary step for climate justice, but in reality, it's increasingly apparent that indigenous communities and ecosystems are paying the price for this so-called green future. Mining for transition minerals, central to the green transition, has not been coupled with meaningful protections for indigenous land rights or biodiversity. While the world celebrates the rise of electric vehicles and renewables, it's important to ask, what are we sacrificing for? What are we sacrificing for? Or why are we sacrificing for this transition? If we continue down this path of greenwashing, we exacerbate the very injustices we seek to solve. The green transition must be just, and it must be for all people, not just for the wealthy nations and corporations benefiting from it. Now, despite the overwhelming challenges, indigenous communities are leading and taking the charge in the fight for a just energy transition. Indigenous resistance movements are gaining traction slowly but surely, and legal victories such as those in Palawan have set important precedents in defending ancestral lands. Across the globe, from Palawan to Sibuyan, indigenous peoples are pushing for sustainable solutions and are refusing to be sidelined in the transition. The call for global solidarity among indigenous communities is more important than ever. We need to ensure that indigenous voices are heard and that our solutions are central to discussions about sustainable development. So, what are our recommendations for a truly, genuinely just transition? Globally, one, corporate accountability. Mining companies must be held responsible for human rights violations and environmental destruction associated with the extraction of transition minerals. Two, support indigenous led conservation. Governments and international organizations should actively support indigenous led conservation initiatives and ensure indigenous peoples have a central role in managing the natural resources that are crucial for both climate mitigation and biodiversity protection. At a national level, one, let us strengthen and protect the free prior informed consent process, not only as a process but also as a right that will ensure true informed consent by ensuring genuine consultations and eliminating the manipulation and coercion of indigenous communities. The government also must ensure the withdrawal of military and all state security forces in indigenous peoples' ancestral lands in resource rich areas, especially those involving mining, to stop the intimidation and displacement of indigenous communities. And last, we jointly call for the abolition of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or the NTF-ELCA, that has been responsible for the vicious red tagging of many indigenous people's rights advocates and defenders and activists. Let us also call for the junking of the Anti-Terror Act. Muli, isang magandang umaga, good morning, at maraming salamat po.